Welcome back to Athletic Every Day, day number 90. So I wanted to do some sprints today, and I was kind of in two minds about whether to do some RIF elevated split squats, because I have always in my training just lacked single-legged strength focus. So lunges, split squats, anything where you're loading that sort of split stance movement pattern quite heavily. I haven't really done a lot of that. I don't have a lot of training experience from doing that. But I ended up not doing that today because just time constraints, to be honest with you. I have a late shift at work coming up. So I figured I'd get this workout in as quickly as possible. And the most important thing for me were the sprints. It's most important for me because sprinting is the most potent plyometric stimulus you can possibly have. The amount of force going through one of your legs when you're sprinting at top speed, it's 4 or 5 times your body weight. You're not really getting that with anything else when it comes to plyometrics. Because of the speeds and the momentum that you're carrying when you're sprinting at top speed. So that was my sort of thinking of getting the sprints in today. Again, these aren't programmed. I finished the program. I figured I would just get 4 sets of 20 meters in. I think sort of anywhere in that sort of 10 to 30 meter range for sprints is the most ideal sprinting distance for me, because then you can work pretty much purely on acceleration. You can get those deeper joint angles as you're accelerating, and you can work on that acceleration phase. And I think that the acceleration mechanics are a lot more, they have a lot more in common. They have a lot more congruent with two-legged jumping and power jumping. So when you do a power jump, you generally get into deeper ranges of motion because you're relying more on muscular strength, as opposed to more of an elastic speed jumper. When they're landing, when they're jumping, they have a very short ground contact time and they get into very short ranges of motion. They're relying a lot more on the elasticity of the lower body. That's not to say that power jumping isn't elastic. They're both very elastic forms of movements. But when you do a speed jump, it's just a lot more elastic. The ground contact time is quite significantly shorter than a power jumper, for example. I mean, go and look at a two-legged jumper and then go and look at a one-legged jumper, and you will see the difference in what I'm talking about. But that being said, so if you're a power jumper, if you're a two-footed jumper, it's probably better for you to focus on acceleration sprinting. And if you are a speed jumper, it's probably better for you to work on the sort of end of your acceleration and more top-end speed jumping. That's just the way I understand it anyway. There is obviously benefit for power jumpers to be working on their speed, like top-end speed, and there's also benefits for speed jumpers to be working on their acceleration sprints. But it's my understanding that you want to work on your strengths and sort of don't neglect your weaknesses, but you definitely want to be playing up your strengths as much as possible. And for me, my strength is one of my biggest assets when it comes to jumping. Speed and elasticity definitely aren't, but I'm still going to be training those with sprints. So I think sprints are something that all athletes should do. Especially power and speed athletes who are on their feet. Any sport that requires you to be on your feet and produce force with your legs, you should definitely be incorporating some form of sprinting into your training, whether that's top-end speed sprinting, whether that's accelerations or anything of that nature. Even hill sprints would get the job done. And with regards to warm-up, I more or less did a very similar warm-up to the shift program. But I wanted to just freestyle it a little bit and incorporate some exercises that I felt like I wanted to work on. So also at the end of this session, I did some approach, max vertical jump approach. So I was really focusing on getting that optimal, I can't remember what the steps are called, but you've got the penultimate step. I can't remember what the step after the penultimate is called. And then you've got your block steps. So those last 3 steps before you take off, I was really focusing on getting those at a higher and higher speed, because that is one of the limiting factors for me with vertical jump. I'm quite good at taking off from a very short approach, but as soon as I try and incorporate more speed, I really lose all of my ability to increase my vertical jump. So for those of you who follow the channel quite a bit, you'll notice that my off vertical jump is only a few inches higher than my max approach vertical jump, which is something that definitely needs to be improved, which is improved by working on my speed. Anyway, that's it for me today. I'll catch you guys in the next one.